think about what to do for the 4,000th one. There's really not a cool like 4,000 gun thing that I can think of, like a model 4,000 or anything. No
Oh my
4,000
God.
caliber, so I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that would be so cool. Cause you're like, how many? You like 20 away or 18?
It's
Something
close,
like
yeah.
that.
I don't even know. And then you can always fiddle with it. I could delete something or something if I had to get right in
Hmm.
there, but yeah, I haven't looked in a minute, but it's getting there.
That's so awesome, man. I don't think anyone else has achieved that, and I know from making videos myself, it's not easy.
I don't know. Cutlery
So,
Lover was always gave me a run for my money. I don't know, and he's probably been doing videos more regularly than I have over the last couple of years.
who did you say?
Cutlery Lover, Jeff,
Oh, Cutler. Okay, yeah.
because he does
Yeah,
them on the
there's.
daily, so that's a lot of potential. But he deletes some of his, I think.
Oh, okay. Do you delete any?
Not really. I'm just lazy. I don't leave them up there for any reason. There's obviously no reason, but
Right. But it's good to have them archived, man. I think I'm trying to think back to. I remember even when I was thinking about doing a YouTube channel, you did a video. It's way back about like the top YouTubers. Remember that? Top gun YouTubers.
yeah, I think so. For like that was a while back. That was like before 13 even. I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's going. That's going way back. There's a bunch of cool ones. I like when you showed the NRA museum. There's so many cool things in there, man. You know, for I guess there's probably a few gun folks out there who don't know who you are and all that kind of stuff. Can you tell us, you know, like who you are, how you started doing this, how you got into making YouTube videos and
I'm just a
vlogging and all that?
I'm just a dude down here in Tucson. So a bunch of us worked at AOL, right? So we were playing on the internet and having a good time, and then we were going fishing, and we were posting pictures of our fish and stuff where we go hunting, post pictures of our hunting areas for our friends back east, and there were really no websites for that, so it was just easy enough back then to just build a website for it. That turned into a whole bunch of websites and some clients and stuff. And then when we all left AOL and started doing websites all the time, it was mostly hunting and fishing type of stuff. And then when YouTube came along, it was just a way to put video up cheap, because back in the day it cost money to put video up on the internet. And every once in a while a video could explain something a lot quicker than a bunch of pictures or a blog or something. So that's how we started using YouTube. And then when we became a partner or whatever, and YouTube started paying people, that was pretty awesome. So then we really got into it.
Yeah, so I mean, you guys are pioneers of this thing. Who do you remember was around back? How long ago was that? Like,
Well,
what year did you?
we didn't start doing stuff till '09, right? 2009.
Okay.
But None Fancy was already super established. I mean, he was already the king of all videos at that point.
Oh, so
He
None
was
Fancy was before, because I think YouTube dates back to what, like 2000, like early 2000s, right?
technically, yeah, probably like 5 or 4 or something, but very few. It was all kicked in the nuts videos and look at my cat being
Hmm.
cute type of videos. It really didn't start being used for like even people doing the vacation stuff, I don't think, until like 9 or 10. But Nothing Fancy was out there. I remember one of the first videos I even saw that gave me the idea to do stuff as video format instead of photo format was him taking apart like a backpacking rig, all the
Hmm.
stuff out of a backpack and the explanations of why and that kind of stuff. Kind of like what you'd see in a backpacking magazine back in the day, but in a video format,
Right.
which is pretty clever.
Yeah. Yeah, because Nothing Fancy is so detailed, right? I know he's not like everyone's cup of tea, but I actually, because I've just been doing this gun thing for a couple of years. I don't have any kind of experience or anything like that. So to me, listen, I know there's people that say, oh, well, that's too long, but I like it because it's like hanging out with an uncle that knows about guns or knives or hunting. Now he's doing watch stuff and all that. I really enjoy it because there's so much information that it would take you a long time to find otherwise.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing he was been doing that from the beginning.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say, and then Cutlery Lover was already around back then, doing more of the like video blog, just kind of his daily life kind of thing, sharing his exploration. I think he was still kind of learning guns and knives and stuff back then.
Hmm. Yeah. So, and then when did monetization and all that come into play?
I think 10, 11, something like that, and you had to be invited
Okay.
as a partner originally, and I
Right.
forget what the criteria was. It was probably number of views or something, and then you'd get invited in as a partner, and then I don't know. It was very little money at the beginning, but it was neat to get paid instead of having to pay. Because still back then it was, if you wanted to put a lot of content on the internet, video-wise, you had to pay for server space. So it was like the opposite of that. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, absolutely. And we may wind up going back to that.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, what do you think about all the stuff that's going on nowadays with YouTube in terms of, I don't think it's just us gun guys. There's lots of other people. I know definitely folks doing politics and all that, political commentary, etc. You know, that they're kind of like demonetizing, marginalizing, trying to shift us off somewhere.
I think that's good. It's good for just, you know, the evolution and the development of everything. I really like the concept of this new media, the way that it's interactive. Like the stuff that we're doing right now, this teleconferencing was big money back in the day. It's still pretty big money if you just set this up for your own business or something. So the fact that we can use this and it democratizes the distribution of information, I really like that part of it. So what I've not liked over the last couple of years with the way that the polish has happened to YouTube, I'd call it, it's like they've just taken television shows and rebranded them onto YouTube. So because there was that free money, you know, there was that money no matter what. As long as you did something, you were getting paid for it. I think it's going to change it around, and that's good. It's healthy for it, because now you'll have to be doing something worthwhile that people actually appreciate, because you're going to have a little bit more interaction personally with your audience than just number of views. You know, there was ways to game the system with the old system. So I think it's good for the development overall. It's a little tougher. And I think content will be better for it. I think content was starting to suffer overall. Oh,
you do? Okay. So in terms of how guys are getting their videos demonetized and all that, even you know, I just, for example, all the, I've done this is 40 something, maybe 48 on our Hangouts. And they just went through and demonetized every single one. And then we have to go back through and individually request, you know, that they turn back on the monetization on that. And there's some other things that have happened, right? You know, what do you think about those things? Or do you think that's still all part of the good and what's going to lead to something better?
Sorry, I was talking on the chat there. I think that, I hear you. The same thing happened to us, all our podcasts. I don't know if it's a time thing, because there's no way they listen to all our podcasts, right, to know that we said something that's inappropriate. I think it's just a time thing that advertisers don't want to be on something that's an hour long, so that's why we're not appropriate for advertising. But anyway, I think that's chasing the tail at this point. It might be something that comes back, YouTube money, but I think that, you know, the Patreons and the other things that are out there that are like that are going to end up being where we see people go. We were just looking at Patreon numbers the other day, and it's massive. You know, the number of people that use it and the number of people that participate in the content they like. It's something like millions of dollars a month already. Yeah,
I think one of the things is that people have to shift over, right? You know, it's just a way of doing things that everyone hasn't thought about. And, you know, there were previously guys that were maybe smaller YouTube channel-wise, but, you know, they've been doing Patreon from the beginning or very early. And then there's guys who are really big, but they never did Patreon. So now, you know, and right now at this point, everyone's pretty much trying to do it. I think we just started maybe doing it seriously 6 months ago. But, you know, and I think it is a good thing. I think it makes you connect with who your core audience is.
Yeah.
And, you know, and have to deal with and serve those people in some way.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube got us to where we were looking at viewers, right? Or wait, how were we looking at? We were looking at subs. And, you know, when you start looking at hundreds of thousands of subscribers, who do you make your video for? Even at tens of thousands of subscribers, who do you make your video for? When you have dozens of viewers, you know who you're making your video for. You're having an ongoing conversation with those viewers. And that's what Patreon allows 12 or 20 viewers to keep a channel going. I mean, if it's a grassroots channel where somebody's trying to just get some time on the weekends or some extra ammo to be able to do stuff, Travis, one of the guys over on Gun Channels, has access to the local gun shop's back room, right? So he can take guns out and do videos. So really for him, you know, just a couple of bucks gets him out to the range to be able to continue to do that. And for people that like that kind of, I'll call it grassroots type of content creation, then Patreon's the way to go. And you know, like you said, it's going to be an opportunity for everybody. And then Patreon's it's a way to raise funds for sure, but because of the way the platform's built, I see a lot of potential for the perks and people playing around with those perks. Look how creative people are on their channels and the content they create. And now that we're going to be moving over to Patreon, I think, kind of en masse, I think there's going to be all kinds of ways that people are going to be working with their audience or their viewers to take it to whole different levels. Whether it be people joining live chats like this, or mentioning people, or like I'm going to be trying to go to places that people mention. There's just different ways that people are going to be able to interact. Where YouTube gave us comments, but that was it. And I guess direct comments and then public comments. But Patreon allows us to make these perk levels. So now somebody could say, do you want me to do this with my channel, or that with my channel, or that with my channel, and put a buck down where you want me to put, with the direction you want me to take my channel. So there's just lots of little ways I think we're going to see development of content.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about the other ways that people are doing things? Like, for example, we've got the people that sponsor us, and there's a bunch of other things people are doing. I think, people have affiliate programs going. What do you think about all those things?
The affiliates, I've been doing those for a long, long time, and they're difficult. I don't want to lead people into them unless you've got real numbers, significant numbers. Those are really just a trickle. But I think when you have like a direct sponsorship, honestly, that's critical. I think that's crucial for the industry, as well as just the entertainment and the distribution of content. But again, when you're talking about an individual creator, you don't need much to get going. Most of the time, our phones can do it. A couple $100 worth of equipment can do it. And even if we're dealing with viewers and not thousands of subscribers, but dozens of viewers. If you're in an area like I was down here in southern Arizona, where there just wasn't a lot of content on the web at the time about the lakes down here, I was 100% of the content about the lakes down here. So you can be that guy who's 100% of the content about maybe the competitive shooting in your area, or like we got Clover over on Gun Channels who does a lot with 4-H. So there's probably something that you can provide to a local shop or a manufacturer that's going to bring them significant return on whatever little investment they put in your channel. And you don't get a Brownells or a Midway coming along, and even though they might want to and have all the interest in doing it, they can't support every little manufacturer, every little shop that works with them. But I think that's the symbiotic relationship between content creators who are trying to do it and get bigger, and those shops out there that can't all give money to Hickok or to Iraqi veteran or something if they want to promote that kind of stuff, but they sure can promote the shop with the little content creators in their area.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know how people feel about the phrasing, but it's kind of like trickle-down economics, right? They can't get the number one guy. They might go to number two, number three. Maybe they can't get those guys. They keep going. And we can all help each other out because there's small companies that are starting up. And everything today is social media. That's kind of like the phone book or asking a friend, a long time ago, who's a good plumber or who's a good mechanic. It's all on social media. So
and you can be
those kind of things meet up, right?
Yeah, you can be their social media expert. Your thing, as a content creator, is going to be in touch with a certain amount of the segment of the audience and, interacting with them and keeping them interested and, having a conversation with them. And then those shops, they wish they could have somebody like that on the payroll. So, yeah, I think it's definitely, again, it's neat. Because if YouTube would have stayed and YouTube would have got even worse and just started pouring money out to content creators, yeah, then we'd see basically the equivalent of kicked in the balls videos. We'd see a bunch of guns, running all kinds of ammo through them, and everybody would just be desperate to find the newest gun to run the most ammo through, or to do some kind of parody or joke. It was just kind of getting repetitive. This way, it gives people a chance to be creative again and to actually give some honest reviews of stuff.
Yeah, it is scary. It is scary, I think, though, when people change the rules, but that's life. That's life. You have to get used to it. They change the rules. You also have to change. I called my this podcast that I'm doing "Who Moved My Freedom," and I basically modeled it after "Who Moved My Cheese." You ever heard about that book?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was mandatory reading at AOL.
Oh really? Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think I started reading that when I was maybe like 21 years old or something like that, and I read it probably every year, maybe a few times a year, just to remind me that the rules always change, and then you have to change and adapt with that. And even in some cases, use those things that are happening to your advantage. Use it as leverage or use it as motivation to move forward, and just don't give up or throw your hands up or wait for anyone to come in and save you.
Exactly.
You know. So now there's a question that Lawrence Lerwick is asking: have you ever thought about creating a YouTube-style space, call it GunTube, where content creators can post videos? And then he says, by the way, YouTube is being sued by creators for loss of money. So I guess that's a question and a comment.
I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like we're in a mall or something, and it's like they've. I don't know. I hate to. I don't understand how people can say that YouTube took something from us. I mean, if you're doing something on YouTube that made money, that's great. But I don't think there was anything in there that said they were obligated to never change. Every year they change and do stuff, and they move on. So as far as building a separate YouTube, Full 30 already exists, and they built it from the ground up. From what I understand, coded it themselves. Like actually built their own systems, and it's designed to host gun-related content. And put that gun-related content in direct contact with gun manufacturers who are the sponsors who are gun-related, who can't even get on Google. If the auction or whatever the various Henry, all the different sponsors over in Full 30, they couldn't pay Google to put them in front of our videos, even if they wanted. Google won't do it. So Full 30 is definitely.
They won't accept advertising money from the firearms industry for the most part. I think I have seen a few things.
Well, it's been like NRA and the some CCW insurance, I guess. Occasionally, maybe a holster or something, but for the most part, they're not conducive to that. So I think they've done a good effort, but I'm not going to try. I worked at AOL. I know what it's like to build the giant servers and stuff, at least a little bit, enough to know that I'm not going to want to get into that. I think there's probably room for it, and I'm sure that if Google continues to be anti-gun, and they've done that a little bit here and there, I think that we'll see that change eventually. But we've had discussions like this on our shows before, on other conversations, and some people brought up some good points that if we were, let's say that there was a perfect place that could host videos, and we could just take all our gun-related stuff and go set it down over there and live ourselves on the internet over there. I don't know if that's a service to anybody, because YouTube is a community. It's a community for more than just the gun. It's everybody. Car people, food people, everything. So
how does anyone discover you? You would get, so I don't know how many like hardcore gun guys there are, but let's say it's 50 million, which I don't think it is, but
not that are that interested to only watch gun-related content and are going to. But then also it doesn't bring guns out. There's no ambassadors to guns out there. So many of us who are creating content do gun content and other stuff. We've got car stuff, we've got our food stuff, we've got other things that we're interested in. So when somebody's out there, searching for stuff on the internet, they might find us from eating hot sauce or something, and then discover that we go shooting. So I think there's a little bit of that Second Amendment ambassadorship that we get by being on YouTube and being a pretty big segment of YouTube. So I guess I wouldn't want to leave YouTube, even if they weren't paying. Which I'm just saying, I think the creation of content will evolve without YouTube's involvement of paying us anymore.
I agree with that, and I think that the hard part. So, are you on Full 30?
No.
Okay, because I'm actually on Full 30, and first of all, right now the way that it is, you kind of have to get invited, or sometimes if someone really gets shut down, then they figure out a way to get that person into if they get shut down on YouTube. But it's a very, very tough thing to do, like you said, and they just can't open it and then just let everyone come on and start posting the videos there, just because of the amount of server space or whatever it is that they would have to pay for.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. I mean, think about Google. It's one of the largest entities at this point, and that's because that's the reason they're able to do what they're doing. But that's what I was saying. There might be an opportunity for that in the future, but it would take a leap in tech for computers to be much faster and storage much cheaper, and then we'd probably see individual places for almost every area of interest. Car things would have their own YouTube, music would have its own YouTube. But that's one of the things about YouTube, is that even with the tech side aside, it does bring everybody together and people can share their interests, just like Facebook. People go to Facebook because so many other people are on Facebook. People go to YouTube because so many other people are on YouTube.
Yeah, the only time it becomes 100% useless is if they say no gun guys or no this thing or that thing, and you have no way of being there. At the least, it's always a thing that you can use to promote whatever else it is that you do. So if you do, there are people who do most of their stuff over on Patreon, and they use YouTube just as like a little teaser or to advertise that you can see the rest of the video over here. If someone builds out a platform, you can do it the same way. People can do that with Full30 or whatever else is out there if they want to. Just put a little bit of the video on YouTube, put most of it over there. But ultimately, I think what you're saying is true, that YouTube is where everyone goes, and we all want to grow our audience. You want to have that potential of reaching more people. So.
And it's an established algorithm, and there's plenty of people paying attention to that, and a lot of people experimenting with it. So there are ways to figure out how to use it. It's a common platform. Now, with that being said, we did build gun channels almost 4 years ago now. So whenever remember when YouTube pushed us all over to Google Plus, trying to compete with Facebook, and they really screwed with comments. That was the end of 2013, I guess. We were getting sick of that, and I really didn't like the idea of going over to Google Plus. It was just so weird to navigate. I just didn't like it. So a couple of guys got together. We built this thing called Gun Channels. We just took some off-the-shelf community software and put a gun theme to it, and it's been running since. So people that want to create content over on YouTube can embed the stuff over there. People that are on Instagram predominantly can share in the conversation over there. We have text chats and that kind of thing. So anybody that's curious about just checking out a community, it's not necessarily video hosting. I mean, you can host videos there, but it's not like Full30 where it's designed to host videos or anything instead of YouTube. Most of the time people post their stuff on YouTube, have it on their channel or whatever, and then just link it over like you would on Facebook or something.
Yeah, we've got a question from someone that wants to know why they only ever see the NRA ads. What's your answer to that?
I think that's the only
one.
You
touched on it a little.
Yeah, I think. We don't know, but we're assuming that Google will only take their money. Right? That's probably like their default ad. Sometimes you see that USCCA insurance one, and then they kind of go in phases. I saw a couple of Vortex. It was a really weird thing, but I saw some Vortex ads for a little while. Yeah,
the optics.
Yeah, and I remember seeing some holster stuff. That holster that you put in your pants, that thing was on for a while. So it might be that the companies don't bother to spend the money on Google, which it could be. The NRA is just probably spending money by default on Google, but most of the other companies probably look for other options. Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing. And one of the things I don't know if people realize this, but the advertising is individual. So it's not based on everyone who watches this gun video sees the same commercial. It's based on things that they're pulling from cookies or whatever that's telling them stuff about where you've been. And they're calculating who you are. Are you male, female? Do you live here, there? Do you have these interests? And then that's why you see some advertising. So as well as being into guns, I'm into cars. And when I look at YouTube videos, I see a lot of local to Gainesville, TV commercials for Gainesville Honda or something like that.
Speaking of that, I remember you did a video on the camper. Is that still a project going?
Oh, yes. Did you like that?
Heck yeah, that seems pretty cool. So how far along is it now?
So the RV is still a work in progress. Because it's like a big thing. I was actually there a few days ago. So the engine you're talking about, the RV, right?
Yeah.
That we're making into a 4x4, yeah. So we took out the 440 that was in it, and we still have that because we haven't sold it to anyone. And then I'm kind of tempted to take that 440 engine and build some kind of Mad Max car out of it. And then the engine that we got, we couldn't get it to run in that RV. It works and everything, but we couldn't get it to run in there. So I think that we're going to have to get maybe a little bit more older, or what the guy that's doing it calls like a more mechanical engine to go in there. So we have to find that. This is how this kind of stuff goes. It goes kind of slowly.
Yeah. Well, like that. Whenever there's a hurdle or whatever, now you got to figure out how to get around that.
Yeah, the big things that I have to do is get the engine in, and then we've got the, all the other 4x4 stuff that goes along with it. Once that's all set up, all the other things are, will really fall into place a lot faster. But the engine's kind of like the big hold up. So, we are still working on that because, I'm not giving up on it anytime soon. And then I think this way it'll be more apocalyptic anyway. It'll be able to survive like a an EMP or something. I don't know what you think the likelihood is that we'll actually
But you're
we'll
saying
actually see that kind of emergency.
like going further back from fuel injections back to carburetors, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what's the goal then? Is it you're gonna go road trip with it and take the show on the road?
Yeah. Yes, that's what I would like to do eventually. And I want to have something. Obviously, it's not like going to be a big off-roader, but I'd like to have something that if I go to the shows, when you go to gun shows, the not big shows like NRA or SHOT Show, when you go to the smaller gun shows, you typically have to go off-road to do stuff. So I like the idea of just being able to drive out there, camp out in the thing, hang out with people, and just travel around. I'm not in a big rush to do it because one of my kids graduated high school and went to college, and so we still have one that became a senior in high school. So my plan is, once they're both in college and just doing their own thing, then I'll live at least like half the year on the road.
Right on. Well, you're pacing it. Like you said, it's not like it's a turnaround and the project's finished or anything. So that way you've got time to finish it. Right on.
Yeah. Also, I'm always jumping around and doing a bunch of different things. So, there are other projects and all that I've picked up. And in the meanwhile, what I did was I got a tent, like a rooftop tent. Have you seen those?
Well, just the pop-ups? Yeah.
Yeah, it's because we have a Toyota 4Runner, so it's this thing that you put up there. It's a tent.
Okay.
You like flip it over and you can climb up.
Yeah. You like that? I've seen them, but I've never been up in one.
Yeah, they're relatively inexpensive, and Lola and I used it once. I haven't done a lot of camping. I would prefer to have something like the RV, to be honest with you. And so I didn't want to do a tent on the ground, man. I know that sounds bad.
Well, I guess I see the concept there where you don't have to, it's way less setup, right? You basically stop, you flip that thing open, climb up there, and you're camping. You're not farting around spreading out a tent and all, making a campsite and all that.
Yeah, I know there's pros and cons of like doing the rooftop tent because you have to close it up if you're going to drive off, where the one on the ground you can just put on the ground and then drive off with your vehicle. So, it's a tough thing. I see, do you know Schmeggy 42?
Yeah, he's my co-host on the Daily Gun Show.
Oh, cool. Okay, so that's okay. I was listening in on that before we jumped on. Okay, he says I should join the live chat. You know what? If you guys will have me, I'll jump in there a couple times.
Heck yeah, definitely check out Gun Channels. We built it so that people are creating content and have a place to, collaborate with other content creators, and then share an audience that likes grassroots stuff. Doesn't like isn't looking for the highly polished stuff.
Yeah. So now we were talking about my RV project. I know you've got your van.
Finally, yeah,
right?
I got a new one, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a couple things I want to ask you about the van. Now, are you still on the Red Dawn tour? That's like a big question I'm getting from everyone.
No, that was just a couple of days just to test it out. So I had bought a van last year to go on a road trip, and it got through California and then fell apart. So I've been waiting a year trying to decide, basically putting an engine and transmission into a van is the same as buying another van and starting another potential headache. So I did that. I bought a second van, and that 4-day trip was just to test it out, 1,500 miles to see how it ran.
Okay, is this new van a more modern van than the previous one?
Yeah, the other one was a '86. This one's a 2002 Chevy, 1 ton.
Okay.
So it's a pretty nice van.
Yeah. So and then you would do the Red Dawn tour. For anyone who doesn't know, Red Dawn's your favorite movie, right?
Well, it's the best movie ever made, so yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, best movie ever. It's a pretty good movie. Do you want to tell folks on my channel what the whole Red Dawn tour was about?
Well, okay, so the Red Dawn thing was just because last August 10th, right, last Thursday, I guess, was the 33rd anniversary of the movie coming out. So last year I went up to Copper Star gun shop in Cottonwood, Arizona, so about an hour north of Phoenix. He's got one of the RPKs from the movie, so they took a Finnish Valmet, converted it to full auto, and then mocked it up to look like a Russian RPK. That's one Patrick Swayze used in the movie. He's got it there for rent. So last year on the anniversary, I went up and shot that, and we did the live show from the Copper Star. So this year I wanted to one-up that. So we went out, and Smeggy and I had spent some time on Google Maps and looking at clues online, and we found the place where the guy holds the AK up in the air and yells Wolverines. Like we found where that location was. So I went
Yeah,
up.
that mountain.
Yeah, exactly. And we found that film and location, so I went up and found that. And then at the beginning of the movie, when the guys run out of town and have to load up at Robert's dad's like gas station slash gun shop, we found
Right.
where that shooting location was too. So that was the goal of this trip, was just to put some miles on the van and see how it works, and then check out those locations on the anniversary of the movie. So we did our live show from Las Vegas, Nevada, or from Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Okay, very cool. So I just want to remind everyone watching again to definitely share this on your social media. Let everyone know that what we're doing here, and hit the like button. There's a couple of questions I want to ask you about those videos, and folks, you can definitely put in your questions. We'll get to it. Lola's monitoring all the questions. I'm looking at them as well. Couple things. So with the mountain, I noticed that you refused to give out the location.
Yep.
What's up with that?
Well, because then it's no fun. So it exists, and it's totally easy to find. It took us about an evening to figure it out, just playing with Google Maps and using some clues. So yeah, it's no fun if I just give everybody the mile marker and a GPS. So
Oh, so what about like your Patreon people? Can they get the location from you, or still burned out?
no, I would tell them it's closer, but not. I mean, like I say, it's. And here's the thing: there's already graffiti all over it. Somebody's already, I don't know, either
Oh, really? Oh,
intentionally
I
or
didn't-
unintentionally
okay.
spray painted all over it. So I don't know if people just think, hey, this is a great spot to spray paint, or if they're doing it intentionally. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, these
It
things
seemed
are-
like it didn't seem like there was a lot of traffic going down that road.
yeah,
I think
there
I
was
heard
for.
like one car in your video, maybe one or two cars.
Well, there's actually a lot more traffic than I would have thought, because it is kind of in the middle of zero, like nowhere, literally. I can't
Yeah.
imagine how they even figured out that location. I mean, they must do a good job of scouting. They probably do it in airplanes or something.
Yeah. Did you? When I was watching your video, I was like, man, that would be. I would just go there and make a movie. Were there any have there ever been any fan films that people maybe went out there?
You know, I don't know, but there should be. And yeah, now that I've been out there, just the way that the trip worked, I didn't want to spend forever out there. I didn't have forever to spend out there, I should say. I think I figured out how to get to the top of the rocks, like the way the movies would have done it, instead of climbing up the rocks. And we'll go out there again and film and get some pictures from up there, and yeah, maybe do some kind of playing around.
Yeah, it was very cool. I know you said you were in the town. You showed a couple things there in the town, and then in one of the videos I was watching, there was like a rattlesnake.
Yeah, that we're talking about on Patreon. I'll post that as a video on Patreon and then let it go out, one of those kind of things. But yeah, that's just a little side story that I found had a little encounter with a rattlesnake out there. It was kind of fun. So that's the kind of stuff you can never tell when you're on a road trip, right? You never know when you're going to find something interesting like that. So anyway, that's the point. So we got the van and it's good to go. So we're calling it the Gun Show Loophole Tour, and kind of started it last year. Went out to California and saw the Ring of Fire, where they made all the inexpensive Saturday Night Special type pistols around Los Angeles. I've always liked those guns, so I went out last year and saw most of the factories, got pictures and did little videos in front of each of the factories. That's when the van broke down. So the goal of the trip, though, is to then drive around, go to gun shows on the weekends, and then go to a different gun shop every single day. So we're trying to get out there and see shops and find the little shops that are out in the middle of nowhere that are awesome. Just went to a couple on the way back from the Red Dawn shops, or Red Dawn places that were, kind of for hunting, like you'd call them like hunting towns, and just found a little surplus store up there that was awesome, a couple of gun shops that are just amazing, and that's the goal, is to get out there and find these little shops and give them a little plug on the internet, let people know they're out there for people that might be traveling or moving to an area or hunting it somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's a cool thing. So the Red Dawn tour was like a little detour inside of the gun loophole.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
gun loophole tour. Okay, cool. So now that you've got everything all tested out, you'll be getting back to that.
That's the goal. Yep. So basically, I'm trying to clear the things, trying to get it figured out so I can do my editing along the way. A big problem is you go out and you collect a bunch of video, and I just don't want to acquire video. I got to figure out a good way to get it out there, presented as well. So we do the daily gun show, so a lot of it'll be, talking about these gun shops every single day.
Okay. And I know you were saying earlier that people don't really need a lot of technology to get into this. Do you talk about what kind of stuff you use to run your channel in terms of cameras and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm definitely a minimalist. I use the, what is this thing, a Galaxy, whatever, the rugged Galaxy PS5, maybe even. It's not even that new.
Okay.
So
Okay, so a phone.
yeah, I'm doing everything off of an Android phone. I used to do everything. I've done like you mentioned, I've got 4,000 videos up there. We've done every single video with like a $70 camera. Back when we were doing a lot more videos, we just bought the same camera over and over and over so that we'd always have the same batteries and parts when they'd fall apart or break. And we never put a lot of money into tech. So yeah, I'm always been an advocate for get into it, start doing it, and if it turns out you're a tech head, you really like the gear, then go for it. There's all kinds of cool gear that's not that expensive, but get started. Don't wait for the perfect camera before you start doing it.
Yeah, when I started my channel, my first video, I think I did it on an iPhone 3 or something like that. You know, and I'm into technology and I like cameras and all that. I'm really into filmmaking. So I tell people the same thing. It doesn't matter what tools you use as long as you know how to use them and then you learn from it. And then you can always grow and expand on that. But if you're not really into it, just use the simplest, easiest things for you and then do it.
And the other thing that's nice about a camera or a phone is that we all have them in our pockets. For the most part, everybody's got them in their pockets. And it's not that hard to master the phone camera. It's pretty quick. And you put that thing in your whatever toolbar so that it's easy to get to. And just get in the habit of taking pictures of everything that you're doing. And then your gun stuff is just part of the stuff you're taking pictures of.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert Sinclair says Wolverines. I want to talk about that. Let's talk about the. How often do you watch Red Dawn?
Not that much anymore because I've seen it a lot. So now I watched it a couple of times, getting ready to go up there when we were looking for those locations. Trying to figure out where they had the cameras, that kind of thing. But maybe once a year or something.
Yeah, yeah. So like one of the things I like, I'm into movies. I'm assuming you're into other movies other than the Red Dawn movies, right? You're a movie guy?
I like movies, but I'm not the kind of guy that's got like every movie on DVD in a big room or something. I don't have a TV.
Okay.
So I watch them, but yeah.
Yeah. So how did that become the best movie in the world for you? Is it, for me, it's when I came to America in 1983. And that came out in '84, I think.
Yep.
So that was like one of the first American movies that I saw from here.
Right on. And how old were you then?
In 1984, I would have been like 12 years old.
Right. So yeah, exactly. I was just probably a couple years older than you, and it's just at the time it came out, we were in the Cold War, and everybody was kind of feeling frustrated, and I don't think we saw out from it yet. Just a few years later, it would be over. We didn't know that though, and. I just really like that it's still got real bad guys, communists, right? Where it seems like the politically correct stuff kind of mixed with bad guys, and they weren't just plain old bad guys like it was one of the last movies to have just plain old bad guys. And that the bunch of kids who didn't plan on it or didn't, prepare for it or weren't anxious to do it, just stepped up and did what needed to be done. And I just think it's a great message and fun movie. As far as the movie itself, but then years later, as I started to look at it in the bigger picture, I guess years later, the guy who made it, Milius, was a big or a good friend with Spielberg and some of the other guys, and because he was a gun guy, they were comfortable with guns. They literally meet up and go shooting and stuff. If you listen to some of the behind the scenes or DVD extras, he was a big influence on those guys who had big influence in culture. So I think that Milius was a good guy. Specifically Red Dawn, though, he wanted that movie to be authentic. There's some stories like the helicopters that the CIA actually came up and wanted to know where these Russian helicopters came from because they made them so accurate. He wanted the AKs to be authentic. So, and again, he couldn't see the future or nothing, but he made this movie in '84. In '86, you could no longer convert guns to full auto, right? So these, 13 AKs that were Imatis modified into full auto, owned by a, movie prop house, were used in all kinds of movies. That if he wouldn't have done that at that point in history, we would have had ugly mock-ups of AKs in movies forever. We would have never had the opportunity to have those AKs in so many movies and TV shows and stuff. So I just think it was a pivotal movie. It was also the first PG-13, which I guess is kind of neat.
Yeah, that's a historical thing. I think it was technically there was another movie that was the first one, but it didn't come out first.
It didn't come out
first.
It was
delayed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love all the movie trivia, and I saw there was a documentary because I think it's John Milius, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a good documentary on him. It's on, I think, either Netflix or Amazon or both of those.
Yep,
But
highly worth watching because again, it shows how interested he was in guns and he kept them in the culture. Without Melius, we would have had a really different culture with guns. I think.
yeah,
Movies.
and he's responsible for a bunch of movies, even ones that he didn't do. He's done some iconic movies, but he wrote and helped out on a bunch of movies out there, and he helped give that like gritty realism that lots of us like about those movies.
Yeah, exactly. And if he wouldn't have done it, they would have made wimpy movies, and those movies would have been successful by default, and we would have never seen the progression towards more realistic, fun, violent movies, basically.
Yeah, it's just like the writers today. There's a lot. I'm always trying to highlight gun writers or fictional writers that are gun guys. I know Larry Correia is one of those guys. He writes fiction stuff, but he's a real gun guy, and he puts that in his stories. He does fantasy type things. And then Angry American, Chris Weatherman, he's another one that I've had on. Genuine gun guy, and he does more like survival kind of things. Like, what if there was an EMP and then all the tech got knocked out and people had to survive? So that's more realistic. But it's what I like about their stories that they both write. It's real true gun stuff. That before I got deep into, I was always into guns my whole life, but I really wasn't practicing it, right? I really didn't own the guns and go out there and shoot things. And I'm kind of, I do a lot of writing. So before I actually started shooting these guns, if I would have written stories, it would look completely different from now that I've actually shot them. And one of the things is like when you read books or look at movies and someone's talking about a Glock and there's a safety on the Glock, and you come to realize this person doesn't really know about guns.
Yeah, or like the hammer or something, and they're just saying things that they just don't know aren't actually technically accurate about what they're trying to say.
Yeah, it really adds a lot of realism to it. So I enjoy that kind of stuff. So, okay, you know what? I'm sure. I don't know. I'll look to see what questions people are coming up. Let's talk about some guns, man. What guns are you into?
That's funny because I've been more into Second Amendment type of stuff, I guess, than guns. I have not had the cash, so I haven't been buying them. And ever since I'd say maybe 14, I kind of lost interest in doing show and tell. So I have probably bought a bunch of guns just to play with on YouTube, and that just kind of got old. So I quit acquiring them for that, and really I was just acquiring collections to play with. So I quit acquiring a while ago, and actually I've been selling a bunch to pay for the tour and going out and doing stuff, and that's actually been a little bit I don't know, therapeutic, I guess, because there's a difference.
Yeah, you got really zen, I guess.
Well, seriously, like
I remember seeing like some real badass guns, like the 5.7 and stuff like that, and you doing videos about that. I don't know whether or not you've owned it, but I've seen a lot of really cool guns on your channel.
No, the stuff, I never owned any expensive stuff personally. Have access to guns, of course. It always makes it easier to have a channel, but anybody can get access to them. Just go out and be personable at a range and bring donuts to your shop once in a while. Get used to going to gun shows and letting people take a break to go take a piss or get something to eat for lunch or whatever, watching their table for them. You can get all kinds of relationships with people to get content for a channel. But I guess what I'm saying is just opening up the gun safe and having everything fall out, compared to having some room in there. There's just a little
right.
Safe.
So a lot of the guns have been getting pared down, but do you still have the safes?
Oh yeah, they're still guns. It's just that got rid of a lot of the excess stuff. But anyway, so I guess I haven't been out searching for new ones. I enjoy interesting little ones, but not so much acquiring them anymore. So they're kind of tougher to enjoy, really, because there's not too many people to take them out to the range, and it's just sort of a happenstance if you happen to see something interesting at a range. So but I've been getting into the ammo more for whatever reason. I started digging, collecting ammo, and just looking into it and researching it, and that's one of the reasons I'm selling off some of my collections is to start collecting ammo a little bit more.
Okay, so when you say you're getting into the ammo, is that reloading or just
collecting
having ammo?
Collecting specimens and researching it and finding it. Specifically 7.62 stuff. I like to research Kalashnikov stuff, and I've already collected bayonets quite a bit, and the other stuff doesn't seem to perk my interest as much as the ammo. And there's a lot of it out there. A lot of countries made it, so a lot of opportunity to I guess what I'm looking for is stuff to look for at gun shows, to search for, and that gives me something little and inexpensive to seek out.
Oh, okay. So what kind of cool ammo stuff have you come across? Or
I guess it was cheating because I just bought it, but I did find one of the underwater AK rounds at a gun show a while back. It was about a couple years ago now, but that's probably the coolest thing ammo related I've gotten in a while. So you know the
wow.
AKs or the commies kind of experimented with shooting a spear looking AK underwater, a projectile that looks like a spear basically, and it had a weird looking magazine. So I grabbed one of them and then found out later that there's been quite a few of those available over the years. They're not quite as rare as I thought, but still fairly difficult to obtain.
That's interesting. So how does that work? I mean, is it just something that pushes out the spear? Is it a big,
It sort of looks like a 5.45 round with a giant piece of metal rod stuck out of it instead of a regular bullet. And then that would somehow
so it's a micro spear.
Yeah, it's the size of a chopstick or something, a little bit thinner than a chopstick, but a solid piece of steel, and then just jammed into like a 5.45 cartridge. And I guess that feeds up into a weird looking chamber, and I guess it shoots better underwater than a small projectile, but it uses gunpowder and everything.
So did they use that for shooting people?
I don't know if they ever even used it. I don't know if they ever even used it. It must have been for people. But what else? Danger against sharks? I can't imagine they care about sharks.
Yeah, I mean, because I just don't see the Russians like going underwater and they're like, let's make sure these AKs work against sharks.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't imagine what kind of lethality just a piece of metal would have.
Yeah, unless you have Sharknado. I don't know if you know what Sharknado is.
Oh yeah, but then you just swim up into it, I suppose. Ride a shark.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think those would help you anyway against those Sharknado sharks. You know, they're pretty indestructible.
But that's why it's so interesting to collect that kind of stuff, because the questions are there. You know, who knows? There might be some documentation somewhere, but I guess that's part of the fun, having to discover it.
Yeah. So, and are there any like dream list things out there that you would like to find in that realm?
No, I've had a chance to check out a really extensive collection, so I know that there's more than I'll ever imagine, type of thing. And just when you look at ammunition for the stuff I'm looking at, it's either the type of cartridge, like maybe the material of the case or the projectile or something, or the packaging. So in both cases, there's just a ton of different variety there from all the different military versions. Then once you get into the commercial stuff, the commercial stuff over the various years, and stores and manufacturers and stuff, there's just a bunch. So that's the nice thing. That's one of the reasons I'm going to that. It's not like some of the other things where there's that one thing that you can collect to be like the star of your collection. It's just more of a collect a bunch and enjoy the variety. And it's none of it's really expensive or all that unattainable.
Okay, cool. So I think you still go to SHOT Show, right? Because I believe I saw you at SHOT Show this year.
Yeah, we met up this time, I think, for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, of course, I never knew what you looked like, so now I do.
Right on.
No one knows what you look like, right?
A lot of people do, I think.
Yeah. So, when you were at SHOT Show, was there anything there that interested you, or did you go to SHOT Show more for like meeting up with other YouTubers and?
Yeah, well, like we were talking about this year at SHOT Show, my goal was to get everybody together and fight apathy, right? Everybody, we have Trump, and I kind of suspected everybody was going to say, "Oh, we got Trump, we're done." We had the little momentum going with the Hearing Protection Act, but not much else. So I'm going to do that as my goal next year too. I think is just to that's a one opportunity where we have to get a lot of writers, writers for magazines and blogs and stuff like that. We've got podcasters, we've got YouTubers, we've got people from radio shows and television shows. We've got them all together in one spot, and on top of that, we have the entire industry there. So I'm hoping that we can use our audiences for more than just making a buck or two, and get some of this, combat some of this apathy and move some of these initiatives forward, and get everybody together. I mean, like I say, it's an opportunity for us all to get together. I know sometimes, like some of the shoots and stuff, we get a chance to meet up, but I think it'd be cool if we all found a conference room somewhere and just all sat around a table and figured out what can we all do to get one of these things passed or 6 of them passed.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think I agree with you that there's apathy. I think we do need to get together. Do you think the apathy is with the general gun people out there relaxing and thinking they don't have to worry about rules, or do you think the apathy is also with the people on our side, the content creators, or both?
Oh, it's hard to say. We're all human beings, so I think it's just we all got sick of that fight. You know, we've all been really fighting since 2013. We all kind of got together and rallied together when we needed to, and then it's just been a big sigh of relief and a little bit of a tenseness here when we thought Hillary was potential, and then it's just that you could hear that sigh of relief right after the election. So I think it's just everybody, and it's just the concept that when everything's good, that's when you that's when you rebuild your resources, that's when you build your defenses for the next fight, not when the next fight is imminent. So I think we've got a lot of potential here to. We have a new environment. We can basically walk everything through. The doors should be basically held open for us if we really put our minds to it. And the last time we actually had to put our minds to it, I think, would be the M855 issue, when they threatened the 223, and everybody kind of got together, and some of the mainstream helped kick that into gear just enough to stop it from happening. This would be a great exercise to get everybody together when we're not defending ourselves from something. Instead, when we're pushing it, give Bloomberg an offensive to have to defend against, and then instead of him just having the open door to constantly push offenses towards us, spend some of his money on the defense, and that could really change things. Again, we have a lot of potential. There's a lot of people creating content, and they're looking for things to do that are new and different, and we got audiences that are interested in seeing stuff that's new and being part of it and using this new interactive stuff that we've got with the internet. And I could see some real potential when we start moving the ball the other way, challenging things like the 4473, and instead of defending against universal background checks, let's make them defend the 4473 itself. Let's make them defend the NFA, using stuff like the amount of suppressors that are being sold. It's incredible. Use some of these numbers to our advantage and start moving the ball the other way. So, like I said, there's a lot of opportunity coming, and hopefully SHOT Show will be an opportunity for us to all come together.
To get together. Yeah. I think that there's a couple of different things that go. Hold on a second. I don't know why I'm getting the. Okay, I think there's a couple of different things that are going on. Leading up to the actual elections going down, I think a lot of the companies just really adopted, not all of them. I mean, I think there's a lot of companies there that are real Second Amendment, real gun guys, but there are companies that just adopted a Hillary strategy, hoping that they would sell more than they did under Obama, when Hillary got elected, because it looked like, hey, there was no way that Trump was going to get elected. And then that didn't happen. I think that people just weren't really letting on what they were going to get up to. So,
and I don't think they hold any ill will against him. I mean, that's probably smart. If it would have gone the other way, that would have been the way to play it.
Yeah, sure. And if you're in the business of making money, now, obviously it didn't go that way. So then they built all these, they built the standard things, and we've got a lot of them out there. So now they're not selling as well because people aren't in panic mode thinking, I'm just going to buy every AR I can, get every lower, buy all the ammo and all that kind of stuff. So part of what's going on, I think, is that, and I think a lot of, from my personal opinion, is that SHOT Show, a lot of the companies were stunned. I think there are good companies out there who are real, strong Second Amendment people, and they're out there fighting and all that, and they realize the value that we have in working with us to do things. I think the flip side of our problem as well is us, and we don't get along with each other, and so that makes it very difficult for us to come together, right? At the same table and put our stuff aside, our differences aside, and say, let's get together and make sure we keep pushing our audiences out there collectively to keep fighting for these rights.
True, but that's the thing. I mean, we've had I don't want to say that it's never happened, because there's been efforts towards getting everybody together for certain things before, and I think we all worked together in pretty good harmony back in 2013. Not with anybody coordinating it necessarily, but everybody did what needed to be done because everybody saw the goal was the same for everybody. So that's what we've got, though, and we've got that over some of the things like common interest in cars or food or music, right? There's nothing that really is solid, that holds that together, those communities together. We've all got the second. So deep down on top of all of whatever aspects of it we might be specifically interested in, we all come back to that Second Amendment, and that's something that I think a couple of the right people could bring everybody together. And at least not everybody. Obviously, there's always going to be somebody who doesn't want to play, but I think it could create some different content going forward in the next year. A lot of what you say
I would like to see that myself. I just think that, and I'm not trying to be a downer on it, but honestly, from my perspective, versus when I was outside and just a guy on YouTube watching everyone, and I thought, man, all these guys probably get along together and it's all great. And then from the inside, I realized that it is a little bit like that, but there's a lot of little kingdoms, and, people have, that like, don't deal with this person, don't deal with that person. There's all these different things going on. Or if you do something with this guy, then these people don't want to do anything with you. And it kind of makes it difficult, to put those things aside. Although I totally agree with you, we have to do that, because otherwise we'll find ourselves not having any of these rights.
Yeah, or we'll just be wasting our time, or each of us spinning our wheels in the same direction. But I hear you, but I think that, again, the way that the things have changed, we're not all just getting fed by YouTube anymore. So everybody's going to go out, get a little more self-sufficient. People that require an income to be able to do their thing are going to either figure out how to get that income or be gone. And then the people that survive it all, I don't think are going to be, hopefully won't be in that same paradigm. But yeah, we all came from that. I know what you're trying to say in there, where there's like cliques and groups or whatever, but I really think a lot of that is because we're so YouTube-centric, and just YouTube has taken themselves literally out of the picture here. They're creating places like Patreon becoming a bigger part of our segment of the internet community or whatever. So as YouTube becomes less of the big player in the game, there'll be more collaborations, I think. You've already got people that have come up on Instagram or come up on Facebook and either don't use YouTube at all or just barely, and there's less. There's the same cliques and whatever out in those different platforms, but they do come together, and you see some collaboration across platform.
Yeah, I totally believe that there is a potential for it, and I think someone like yourself is, you're in a good position to help do that. And sometimes we don't, because of the technology we don't have to sit down across from the same table, believe it or not. Sometimes that's not the best thing to do with some people and different egos and things like that we're dealing with. But however, if we have these common issues, like we can all agree, have you seen the stuff that's going on in Oregon?
With the confiscations?
Yes.
Heard about it, haven't looked into it at all.
Yeah, so that's something that's out there. I mean, I know they were trying to push this bill, and then they were able to push it through the Oregon. I know I'm probably not saying that right. This is where you could tell a little bit of my accent. So I don't know if I'm saying it right, like I should be saying Oregon or whatever. But the governor actually signed this, so now it's a law that if members of your family or police think that you're a danger to yourself and other people and you own guns, they can take your guns. That's law now. So I think things like that and other things that are coming up, we can all get together and agree on that. And if we had some kind of like clearinghouse or hub that we can go to where it says, okay, you don't see each other's differences, you see the things that you have in common, and these are the things we want to fight. We're like, let's fight this, on this day or at this time. Let's all push on our different social medias, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, Facebook, whatever you're big on, push this. I think that's a way to go about it.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
To do this. Yeah, sorry, I'm listening to you.
Right on. Well, I think you asked originally what I thought of you, SHOT Show, and that's basically what I'm thinking of SHOT Show, is that kind of resource. So.
Yeah.
Aside from that, though, we've been going since 2005, so I really enjoy just seeing the evolution of it. It changes. There's a certain amount of it that's consistent over the years. Obviously, we've met people over the years, so there's certain people that you can imagine. There's a couple of people. Let's say every year you meet one new person who then you're going to say hello to next year. So that's 15 people that we're usually looking around or more, to say hey to and just kind of catch up on. And then I've always liked to, or I've enjoyed watching the evolution of the YouTubers. So when I first got there, there was a lot of, like when we first started doing SHOT Show as media in 2005, it was mostly foreign press. And then the U.S. press was writers, and they had a photographer or something, but like they didn't carry around their own cameras. And there was digital cameras, of course, in 2005, but they were junky and pretty elaborate, and most of the filming was done with regular cameras back then still. And then pretty
those
elaborate.
big heavy things you got to put on a tripod or
Seriously.
on your shoulders.
Yeah, with glass and film and all that stuff. And then there was a couple of guys, Milspec Monkey was already doing video and stuff, and pretty elaborate. So just over the years, seeing the transition from the writers to, and the foreign press, to the YouTubers has been awesome. And just the, I don't know if you pay attention to SHOT Show over the years, but SHOT Show would happen in January every year. It used to travel more, but it would happen in January always, and then we wouldn't see articles until later in the year, like June, August. We would see articles, so new stuff would happen, and we knew it was coming, but we didn't know nothing about it, and there was no thing to reference that to, so that didn't seem out of place. But to see the evolution over the years from SHOT Show of months later, weeks later, days later, moments later, and now live, it's just really
instantaneously.
Cool. Yeah, it's really cool. And people like yourself that come in and bring your angle to it is awesome. So I've really enjoyed that part of SHOT Show, and I don't know if I really contribute that much anymore because I don't produce much. But I hope that I'm gaining perspective over the years, and with stuff like this, I can offer that insight to it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things about what you do, man. I think you do contribute, but I think this is the whole thing about history, right? And having a perspective of history. And some of this stuff is kind of going on now where people are trying to erase history and pretend that something didn't happen, it didn't exist. And I think that's dangerous. I think you need to remember that stuff happened. You need to have these landmarks or monuments or whatever it is that says this thing happened. And obviously it means different things to different people, and I get that. We're human beings, so there's no way around it. And so it's good to have that kind of perspective, or someone to say to you, so I'll give you a perfect example with me and you. So me being a younger YouTuber, I'm not a young dude, but being a younger YouTuber, I might, like for me, my experience of it is where it's this thing where there's people, there's guys that have millions of subscribers, hundreds of millions of views, and maybe they're making a lot of money and all that kind of stuff. And I see it that way. And I don't see what you just said, that, back in the days, there was no such thing as this. So, the fact that a person can come along out of the blue, you don't have to have like military or law enforcement experience or any at all, and just get into this thing. You don't have to spend a lot of money, and you can actually do it and do it as a living and make a living from doing it. It's amazing, and sometimes we lose perspective of that, and we forget about how much awesomeness we actually have, because we just have this really small vision of this thing and not that whole long thing that goes along the timeline like you do.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I think that's definitely worth appreciating, because if you look at the biggest gun people on YouTube, there's 2 of them with military background, 2, and I'm thinking of like 10, but none of those guys have any kind of military or police or any of that. It's just interest in firearms and ability to get the information out there.
Yeah, and everyone's doing it in their own way, So, let me, there's a couple things I want to do. I did promise, now I know you don't do a lot of show and tell stuff, right? But this is something that I saw at SHOT Show probably like 2 years ago. And you can see what I'm holding, right?
Oh, yeah.
I know we can't see you, but you can. Okay, so if you could definitely see this, I'm holding Maxim 9 from Silencer Co. Maxim 9. It's actually a reality. They're actually, getting out there, getting into gun stores. You could probably call up your local gun store and order these. I got this one from Big Daddy Guns. They've got several of them in there. This is not my personal one, but mine should be here next week. So I am going to talk about this. I'm definitely going to talk about this a little bit. Do you have any interest in this, G-Webs?
I think they're super cool, because it's one of those things that, we'll have discussions, what's the next innovation in guns, right? Is it going to be like the the modular concept where the gun is just that little internal thing and your frames swap around it, or is it going to be something like this? And I think that this has so much more potential, since suppressors being restricted for so many years have basically stifled innovation. They've never bothered to think about what would happen if you take some of that recoil or some of that energy, and instead of just diverting it into making the slide work, instead quiet it down and do something. I think there's all kinds of potential there. And I think Silencer Co. is one of the coolest companies out there, so I've been paying attention to this, since it was a prototype, and now I haven't shot one yet, though. I haven't waited in line to shoot one. I've seen them, I've been to places where they were shooting them, but I figured I'd wait till I could spend some real time with it. I'm sure you've shot it already?
I did. I have shot. I think the first time they let like the regular gun dudes get in, they've done a couple of things that I haven't been there. But this last media day, I went and I shot it. So, and then I'm going to be shooting this within the next couple of days. I'm amazed by it, because you know what's one of the really cool thing about this is that Silencer Co. announced this thing 2 years ago, probably, not long into them having the idea, and then it's like reality. It's actually out there, and they thought about a lot of things that we think about as gun guys. Like, companies make stuff nowadays, they make these kinds of things, and they don't make it for a Glock magazine, which is,
standard.
Like, the most common. I know everyone's not a Glock guy, but this is really common.
And it's a well-made mag, so people can dispute
they make that. I don't think it's not exact. It's a lot like a Glock, I guess I should say. Let me. I've got a Glock 17 here, so it's a lot like a Glock, but it's not really a Glock. Now it does have the it does have MOS type of cutout that you could mount an optic on it. It takes the Glock magazine, but there's a lot of different things in it, so it's not really. It's not a Glock or an M&P, but I like the fact that they just like stuck with the Glock magazine, and it's a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. So if you imagine that this is the first iteration, wow, where will we be if this actually like catches on? Where will we be 5 years from now?
Exactly. Name anything that looks. Everything looked clunky at the beginning, and this is almost elegant. So I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be amazing to see now, and especially if we get like